My beloved one, listen carefully. This message is not random, and this moment is not ordinary. On January 17th, heaven marked time differently for you. What I am about to reveal carries weight, urgency, and divine seriousness. Many will hear this, but only a few are meant to truly receive it. If your spirit feels unsettled right now, that is not fear, that is recognition. There was a moment recently when you refused to act. You felt the nudge. You heard the whisper. You sensed the instruction in your spirit. It was small in your eyes, but it was significant in heaven. You delayed. You reasoned. You told yourself later. And because of what you refused to do, your spiritual shield was lifted, not destroyed, not removed forever, but lifted. There is a difference, and you must understand it. A shield lifted is an invitation for exposure. A shield lifted is a window. A shield lifted means heaven is waiting on your response. Tonight carries unusual spiritual activity. This is not meant to scare you. It is meant to wake you. There is an attack scheduled, not because you are weak, but because you are valuable. The enemy does not waste resources on what does not matter. And hear this clearly. This attack will not be stopped automatically. It requires alignment. It requires obedience. It requires action now. You are not being punished. You are being tested for readiness. What you refused was not dramatic. It may have been an apology you avoided, a door you were told to close, a conversation you delayed, a habit you were instructed to leave, a prayer you felt led to pray but dismissed. Heaven watches responses, not intentions. And in that hesitation, the covering adjusted. Right now, angels are standing in position, not advancing, not retreating, waiting. They are waiting for you to open what you have been avoiding. Because what you open on earth authorizes heaven to intervene again. Do not underestimate timing. January 17th is not just a date. It is a checkpoint, a spiritual audit, a moment where heaven asks, can you be trusted with what is coming next? You have been asking God for protection, breakthrough, and peace, but protection follows obedience, not desire. Tonight's attack is subtle. It will not come loud. It will not announce itself. It comes through distraction, emotional heaviness, sudden conflict, confusion, or exhaustion. It comes through things that feel normal but drain your discernment. That is why this message had to reach you before the window closes. You may feel resistance even listening to this. That resistance is proof this message is accurate. The shield is not gone forever. It can be restored immediately. Heaven is merciful, but mercy does not cancel responsibility. What you open, a message, a door, a prayer, an act of obedience, becomes the key that reactivates your covering. This is not about perfection. This is about response. There are things that only obedience unlocks. Prayers you keep repeating will not move until the instruction attached to them is followed. God is not silent. He has already spoken. The delay has never been on his side. Tonight, you must act before rest, before sleep, before distraction returns. You are being given a chance many miss, a warning before impact. Do not assume you have time tomorrow. Grace is present now. You are not weak. You are chosen. That is why correction comes with clarity. Heaven corrects what it intends to keep. If you were disposable, there would be no warning. The fact that you are hearing this means heaven still claims you. Open what you avoided. Say what you delayed. Release what you held on to. Return to what you walk away from. When you do, the shield does not just return. it strengthens. Your are angels assigned specifically to this hour. They move when alignment is restored. They stand down when hesitation remains. The decision is yours, and it is immediate. Take a breath. Let the weight of this settle, not in fear, but in resolve. You are not alone in this moment. Heaven is watching, waiting, and ready. His message found you for a reason. You not scroll past obedience. Chosen one, let your heart be still for a moment, because what is unfolding now grows deeper than what you first heard. This is not just about a lifted shield. It is about why heaven allowed you to notice it. When God lifts a shield temporarily, it is never to abandon you. It is to reveal what you have been ignoring, tolerating, or postponing. And standing beside this moment, with sword drawn and eyes fixed on you, is Archangel Michael, not as a threat, but as a guardian awaiting authorization. You must understand this clearly. Spiritual authority operates on agreement. Heaven does not force obedience, and darkness cannot cross boundaries unless permission is sensed. When you hesitated before, the hesitation echoed louder than you realized. Not because God is strict, but because your destiny requires precision. You are not called for a small assignment. That is why small disobedience carries big consequences in your life. Archangel Michael hath been positioned in your spiritual territory for a long time. You have felt his presence without knowing his name. He is the one who interrupted accidents, redirected conversations, and delayed outcomes that could have harmed you. But even Michael does not act without alignment. His sword moves when heaven and your will agree. When they don't, he stands watch instead of striking. Right now, there is a narrowing. The noise around you is increasing, distractions multiplying, emotions fluctuating without clear reason. This is not random. It is an attempt to keep you busy enough to avoid obedience. Because the moment you align, resistance collapses. The enemy knows this. Heaven knows this. And now, you are being made aware of it. The instruction you avoided keeps returning in different forms. That is not coincidence. That is mercy. God repeats what matters. And hear this carefully. Delayed obedience does not cancel destiny, but it delays protection. That is why this message carries urgency without condemnation. Heaven is not angry with you. Heaven is calling you higher. You may be wondering why this feels so intense, why tonight feels heavier than usual. It is because decisions made in awareness carry more weight than decisions made in ignorance. You are no longer unaware. You are responsible for what you do with this knowledge. That is why this moment feels like a crossroads instead of a gentle whisper. Archangel Michael is not the angel of fear. He is the angel of divine enforcement. When alignment is restored, he does not negotiate with opposition. He removes it, but he only steps forward when you do. This is not above effort. It is above agreement. One clear act of obedience outweighs 1,000 emotional prayers. There is something powerful about you choosing alignment when no one is watching. That is when heaven moves fastest. What you open in private restructures what happens in public. And what you close tonight prevents what would have tried to enter tomorrow. Do not minimize the instruction because it feels simple. Simple acts carry legal authority in the spirit. A message sent. A boundary set. A habit broken. A prayer spoken out loud. These are not small. These are keys. As you listen, let your spirit stay engaged. This is one of those moments where clarity builds layer by layer, and what is coming next connects everything you have been feeling but could not explain. Hold on, because what is about to be revealed shifts how you respond, not just tonight, but moving forward. Now hear this gently, but firmly. If this message is resonating with you, do not keep it to yourself. When you like this video, you are not just clicking a button, you are signaling agreement. When you comment, you anchor this word in the natural realm. When you share it, you become a messenger, and messengers are always protected. Subscribe to this channel so you remain connected to what heaven is releasing consistently. And if this space has been feeding your spirit, joining the membership strengthens the flow that keeps these messages reaching those who need them most. This is not about hype. This is about alignment spreading through obedience. What you engage with shapes what surrounds you. And right now, surrounding yourself with truth matters more than ever. There is still time, but it is focused time. Archangel Michael has not left. He is waiting. Heaven has not withdrawn. It is watching. And you are not behind. You are at the threshold. Take a breath. Let this settle deeper than emotion. What you do next matters, and you are not being rushed. You are being invited. Beloved soul, breathe slowly and receive this with discernment, because the atmosphere around you is shifting even as these words are spoken. What you are sensing now is not imagination. It is the response of heaven drawing closer. When truth is acknowledged, spiritual pressure increases briefly, not to harm you, but to push you into decisive clarity. This is the stage where many retreat emotionally, but you are being called to stand spiritually. Archangel Michael is still present, and his role in this hour is critical. He is not here only as a warrior, but as a witness. He witnesses your response to divine warning. He witnesses whether you shrink back into delay or step forward into alignment. Heaven records responses more than reactions. Fear reacts, but obedience responds. And right now, heaven is watching your response. There is a misunderstanding many carry, that God removes protection suddenly and without reason. That is not how heaven operates. What happened was not removal, but repositioning. Your shield was lifted to reveal a blind spot, something that could not be corrected while it remained hidden. God corrects in love, but he corrects thoroughly. And what is being corrected now is not your faith, but your follow-through. You have believed God. You have trusted him. You have even endured seasons that would have broken others. But this moment is about consistency. Obedience once is powerful. Obedience consistently is transformative. The thing you refused was not because you lacked faith, but because it challenged comfort, routine, or emotional safety. Heaven understands this. A destiny does not pause for comfort. Archangel Michael's sword represents enforcement, not aggression. It enforces what is authorized, and authorization comes from alignment. The moment you choose to obey fully, not halfway, not later, but now, the legal ground shifts. Opposition loses access. Confusion lifts. Peace returns with clarity, not avoidance. There is something else you must understand. Tonight's attack was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to distract you, to pull your attention just enough that you would postpone obedience again. Because if you postpone this time, the window narrows further. Not because God is harsh, but because timing is sacred. You may feel tired, spiritually fatigued, emotionally worn. That is often the sign you are closer than you realize. Breakthrough always requires one last clear decision. Not a dramatic one, a truthful one. Heaven is not asking you to do everything. It is asking you to do the one thing you were instructed to do. That is where power is stored. And once you do it, the shield does not merely return, it upgrades. What once protected you quietly will begin to defend you visibly. Archangel Michael does not fight battles that do not matter. His presence indicates significance. You are standing at a spiritual threshold where obedience becomes authority, where prayer becomes command, where fear dissolves into focus. This is why you are still listening. This is why you have not turned away. Your spirit recognizes that something irreversible is happening. Not destructive, definitive. Do not rush through this moment. Let conviction finish its work. Let clarity settle fully. When you act after understanding, the result is lasting. And heaven is not just ready to protect you, it is ready to promote you into a higher level of trust. And now, as this word lands deeply in your spirit, there is a prophetic action tied to it. If this message is speaking directly to you, if you feel this correction and mercy meeting in your heart, then respond in faith. Type "I restore my alignment" in the comments if you receive this word. Blessing code 1149 has just been released over your obedience, your home, and your next steps. And listen carefully, because this moment does not end here. What God is doing through this message is bigger than one person. It is about reaching souls who are still unaware, still unprotected, still delaying because no one warned them in time. This is where your obedience can extend beyond yourself. I am speaking to those whose hearts are stirred right now. This word did not come freely. It came through obedience, prayer, and sacrifice. And when you choose to support this mission through Super Thanks, through channel membership, or through PayPal using the link in the description, you are not funding content. You are sowing into souls. You are placing oil in the lamp so the light does not go out. The Lord says, as you sow, I will open rivers in dry places. This is not a verse on a page. This is God speaking directly to you. When you respond in this moment, you are not giving money. You are answering a prophetic invitation. Heaven sees it as obedience, not donation. I declare that every seed sown here returns as protection multiplied, clarity increased, and doors open that no enemy can shut. Do not delay this response. Act now. Support the work. Join the mission. Release the seed. Heaven is watching, and the harvest is already prepared. My precious one, now that the warning has been revealed and the call to alignment has been released, heaven begins to speak in a different tone. This is no longer about urgency alone. This is about understanding what obedience activates after the decision is made. Many people think the hardest part is hearing God. In truth, the hardest part is acting once you hear Him. And yet, this is where power begins to flow without resistance. What you are stepping into now is not recovery, but recalibration. Heaven is not restoring you to where you were before the shield was lifted. It is repositioning you for where you are meant to go next. That is why the delay felt uncomfortable. Comfort was never the destination. Capacity is. There are things God could not entrust to you while certain patterns remained unchallenged. Not because you were sinful, but because you were stretched thin between obedience and familiarity. And heaven does not pour new wine into old structures. This moment is about restructuring the inside so the outside can change permanently. You may notice that after choosing alignment, certain thoughts lose their grip. The heaviness begins to lift, not dramatically, but steadily. Peace returns quietly, without needing explanation. That is the sign that the shield is lowering back into place, not as it was, but reinforced. The spiritual atmosphere around you responds first before circumstances ever do. This is how heaven works. Protection is restored internally before it manifests externally. That is why impatience can interrupt the process. What God is doing now is deeper than what you see. He is teaching you how to recognize shifts before they become visible. This is discernment being sharpened, not discipline being enforced. There is also something important you must not ignore. When protection returns, opposition does not always leave immediately. Sometimes it tests boundaries, not because it has authority, but because it senses transition. Do not panic if you notice resistance lingering briefly. That does not mean obedience failed. It means it worked. This is where Archangel Michael's role changes. Earlier, he stood waiting. Now, he begins to enforce what has been authorized. Enforcement does not always look like instant removal. Sometimes it looks like restraint, delays, redirection, confusion, and plans that were meant to confuse you. What you don't see is often more important than what you do. You are being trained to trust what is happening behind the scenes. God is teaching you not to measure safety by silence, but by alignment. Silence can be deceptive. Alignment is definitive. And right now, alignment is being established layer by layer. There is also a call here to guard your focus. When heaven moves, distractions often increase. Not because the enemy is stronger, but because it is desperate. The goal is to pull your attention back into old cycles, old emotions, old reactions. Do not engage. Engagement gives access. Awareness without reaction keeps authority intact. The season requires calm obedience, not emotional effort. You do not need to explain yourself to everyone. You do not need to justify your choices. The moment you aligned with God, explanation became unnecessary. Heaven understands you fully. That is enough. You may feel a strong urge to rush ahead, to fix everything at once. Resist that urge. God is teaching you pacing. Protection stays strongest when movement matches instruction. One step at a time. One act of obedience at a time. That is how longevity is built. Something else is happening now that you must recognize. Your sensitivity to spiritual instruction is increasing. What once felt confusing will soon feel clear. What once required confirmation will soon require only discernment. This is maturity forming, not pressure increasing. Do not look back at the moment you refused with shame. That moment served a purpose. It revealed what needed adjustment. Condemnation does not come from by. Correction does. And correction is proof of calling. The coming days will test your consistency, not your faith. You will be tempted to relax your vigilance, to assume the work is done. Stay steady. Protection remains active when obedience remains intentional. This does not mean living in fear. It means living in awareness. Rest when you need to. Reflect when prompted. Act when instructed. That rhythm will keep you covered without strain. God is not asking you to strive. He is teaching you to flow. You are no longer standing at the threshold. You have stepped through. What lies ahead requires the version of you that listens promptly and responds calmly. And heaven is confident in what it is shaping. Let this truth anchor you. You were warned because you are valued. You were corrected because you are trusted. And you were protected again because you responded. Stay present. Stay aligned. Unfolds next will make this moment make sense. My beloved one, what begins to unfold now is subtle, yet deeply transformative. This is the phase where heaven watches not your words, but your patterns. After alignment, after correction, after protection is restored, the true test is consistency. Many people respond powerfully in moments of urgency, but destiny is shaped in the quiet follow-through. This is where your authority is either stabilized or weakened, and heaven is very attentive in this season. You may notice that life appears outwardly normal, yet inwardly you feel more alert. That is not anxiety, that is awareness. God has sharpened your discernment, and with it comes responsibility. You are being taught how to live covered without becoming careless. Protection is not permission to relax spiritually. It is empowerment to move wisely. Archangel Michael remains assigned to your territory, but his posture is different now. He is no longer in a waiting stance, nor in active battle. He is standing as a sentry. A sentry guards borders and watches for subtle breaches. This tells you something important. The threat has not vanished, but its access has been restricted. And restricted access only becomes effective when you maintain your boundaries. This is where many people unintentionally reopen doors. They assume because peace has returned, vigilance is no longer required. But peace is not the absence of responsibility. It is the fruit of alignment. The moment you begin to drift, not dramatically, but gradually, the same pressures attempt to resurface. Not with force, but with familiarity. Be mindful of what tries to return disguised as harmless. Old conversations, old thought patterns, old emotional responses. These are not attacks, they are tests. Tests to see if you will tolerate what you were once instructed to leave. Heaven allows these moments not to trap you, but to confirm growth. You are learning to recognize when something costs you clarity. Anything that drains your peace without producing fruit is no longer for you. This discernment is part of your upgrade. You no longer need chaos to feel alive, nor struggle to feel faithful. God is transitioning you from survival mode into stewardship mode. This is also a season where obedience must be quiet. You do not need to announce changes. You do not need validation. Heaven validates alignment internally before it ever affirms it externally. When you move silently, protection moves swiftly. Noise attracts attention. Wisdom preserves authority. You may feel moments of loneliness or separation, even among familiar faces. Do not misinterpret this. God often creates space around those He is refining, not to isolate them permanently, but to recalibrate their focus. When distractions lessen, instruction becomes clearer. Archangel Michael's presence ensures that what is not meant to reach you cannot cross the line. But he does not interfere with your choices. If you invite confusion back in, he will not override your will. This is why personal responsibility is central now. You are not being controlled, you are being entrusted. There is a strengthening happening in your inner life. Decisions feel firmer. Boundaries feel easier to hold. You no longer feel the need to explain why you are saying no. That is authority settling in. When authority settles, temptation loses its persuasive voice. Do not rush outcomes. What God is building now is stability, not speed. Fast results impress people, lasting fruit honors God. You are being taught patience not as waiting, but as steady obedience without emotional urgency. Pay attention to your rest. Exhaustion makes discernment blurry. God does not require you to be constantly alert. He requires you to be consistently aligned. Rest is not weakness. Rest is trust. When you rest well, you hear better. There may be moments where you question whether the danger has truly passed. That questioning is natural, but do not dwell there. Faith is not pretending risk does not exist. Faith is trusting that obedience has already addressed it. You do not need to revisit what hath been resolved. This is also a season of pruning. Some connections will fade naturally. Some interests will lose appeal. Do not resist this. Pruning is not loss, it is focus. What remains after pruning is what is meant to grow with you. God is also teaching you to recognize spiritual fatigue versus spiritual resistance. Fatigue calls for rest. Resistance calls for obedience. Confusing the two leads to frustration. Learn the difference, and you will avoid unnecessary struggle. Archangel Michael's assignment will not always be felt, but it will always be effective. You do not need to sense protection for it to be active. Heaven works best when it is not constantly announced. As you move forward, remember this: the shield is not something you carry, it is something you stay aligned with. Alignment maintains coverage. Coverage preserves peace. Peace sustains purpose. You are no longer reacting to warnings. You are walking in awareness. And that is where true spiritual maturity begins. My dear one, now we move into a phase that many misunderstand because it feels less dramatic but carries greater responsibility. This is the phase of maintenance. After correction, after restoration, after recalibration, heaven watches how you live when urgency fades. This is where spiritual maturity is proven. Not in moments of crisis, but in seasons of calm. You may notice that your days feel steadier now. Fewer emotional swings. Less internal noise. That is not emptiness. That is order. God has quieted what once competed for your attention so you can hear instruction without strain. When life becomes quieter, discernment becomes clearer. And clarity is one of the greatest forms of protection. Archangel Michael remains active, but his work now is preventative, not reactive. Prevention is quieter than rescue, which is why people often overlook it. You may never know what was diverted, delayed, or dissolved before it reached you. That is intentional. God does not need you to see every battle to trust His protection. However, this is also the stage where complacency tries to creep in gently, not as rebellion, but as subtle neglect. Skipping what once felt important, delaying what once felt urgent, assuming alignment will maintain itself without attention. This is not a warning meant to frighten you. It is guidance meant to ground you. Consistency keeps authority intact. Small, daily alignment matters more than rare, intense moments of obedience. Heaven is built on order, and order is sustained through rhythm. When your rhythm aligns with God, protection becomes stable instead of seasonal. Be careful not to confuse peace with permission. Peace is the result of alignment, not approval to drift. When you feel peace, honor it by protecting it. Do not allow unnecessary chaos back into your environment, your conversations, or your thought life. What you allow around you eventually influences what flows through you. You are also being trained to discern when to act and when to wait. Not every feeling requires movement. Not every thought requires engagement. Wisdom knows the difference. This discernment is part of your upgrade. You no longer react impulsively. You respond intentionally. There will be moments when you sense God asking you to adjust something small again. Do not resist those moments. Small adjustments prevent large corrections later. Obedience is easiest when it is practiced early. Delayed obedience always feels heavier than immediate obedience. Archangel Michael's presence ensures boundaries remain guarded, but boundaries still require your cooperation. If you lower them emotionally, spiritually, or relationally, you create openings that never needed to exist. Stay attentive, not anxious. Awareness is calm. Fear is loud. You may also notice that others begin to respond differently to you. Some will respect your boundaries more. Some will feel uncomfortable around your clarity. This is normal. Alignment changes your spiritual posture, and not everyone can relate to that. Do not try to adjust yourself to make others comfortable. God is shaping you for purpose, not popularity. This is also a time to strengthen what feeds your spirit. What you listen to, what you focus on, what you revisit in your thoughts. These things either reinforce alignment or weaken it. Choose what sharpens you, not what dulls you. As this message continues to guide you, I want to speak directly to your role here. If this word has been anchoring you, guiding you, and helping you stay aligned, then engage with it actively. When you like this video, you are declaring agreement. When you comment, you are participating spiritually, not just digitally. When you share it, you extend protection to someone else who may not even realize they need it yet. Subscribe to this channel so you stay connected to what heaven continues to release. And if this space has become a place of clarity and stability for you, joining the membership helps strengthen the mission behind it. These actions are not about numbers. They are about alignment spreading through obedience. And before you let your attention drift, hold on for what comes next, because this is where understanding deepens in a way that many miss. What is about to be revealed connects your consistency to your future authority, and once you see it, you will never treat obedience lightly again. You are not being watched with suspicion. You are being observed with intention. Heaven is not waiting for you to fail. It is preparing to entrust you with more. But more requires stability, and stability is built through faithful alignment over time. Stay steady. Stay attentive. Stay responsive. The season is quieter because it is stronger, and what God is securing now will support what He releases later. You are walking covered, not because danger is gone, but because obedience has matured. And that is a place few reach but many desire. Beloved one, now the tone shifts again, not into urgency, not into correction, but into revelation. This is the stage where God begins to show you why all of this mattered. Obedience is never random. Alignment is never wasted. What felt like restraint earlier was actually preparation, and what felt like delay was protection disguising itself as patience. You are beginning to see more clearly now. Not everything, but enough. Enough to recognize patterns that once confused you. Enough to sense when something is off before it fully forms. Enough to pause instead of rushing. This clarity is not accidental. It is the reward of consistency. When you stayed aligned even after the pressure passed, heaven took note. There is a shift happening in how you perceive spiritual authority. Before, you may have seen protection as something external, something that covered you from the outside. Now, you are learning that true protection begins within. When your inner world is ordered, the outer world loses its power to destabilize you. This is maturity, and it is rare. Archangel Michael's assignment around you has entered a new phase. He is no longer simply guarding boundaries. He is reinforcing territory. That means what once required defense will soon require stewardship. Territory is not just protected land. It is entrusted space. And entrusted space requires wisdom to manage, not just strength to defend. You may notice opportunities presenting themselves quietly, not loudly announced, not forcefully pushed, but gently placed in your path. These are not tests. They are confirmations. God is showing you that obedience does not only prevent harm, it positions you for influence. Influence begins subtly before it ever becomes visible. Be careful here. This is where pride can attempt to imitate confidence. Confidence remains teachable. Pride resists correction. Stay teachable. The moment you assume you have mastered alignment is the moment alignment begins to slip. Humility keeps authority clean. There is also a refining of your motives taking place. God is aligning not just what you do, but why you do it. Actions done from fear produce exhaustion. Actions done from alignment produce peace. Pay attention to what drains you versus what strengthens you. That distinction will guide your next decisions. You are also becoming more selective with your energy. Not because you are withdrawing, but because you are discerning. You no longer feel obligated to attend every conflict, explain every choice, or rescue every situation. This is not indifference. It is wisdom. God never asked you to carry what He did not assign. There will be moments when silence is your instruction. Do not mistake silence for passivity. Silence, when guided by God, is strategic. It allows truth to surface without your interference. It allows motives to reveal themselves. It allows clarity to form naturally. Archangel Michael enforces silence as power when words would weaken position. You may also feel a deeper desire for simplicity. Less noise. Fewer distractions. Clear priorities. This is not boredom. This is focus. God simplifies before He expands. Expansion without simplicity creates instability. What He is preparing you for requires a steady foundation. Do not rush the unfolding. Revelation comes in layers, not all at once. Each layer requires integration. What you understand must become how you live. Otherwise, knowledge becomes weight instead of wisdom. There is something important to note here. Not everyone who knew you before will understand you now. Alignment changes your frequency, and not everyone can follow that shift. Do not grieve this unnecessarily. What is leaving is making room. What remains is being strengthened. You are also learning to trust God without needing constant reassurance. That is a sign of growth. Faith that requires constant confirmation is still learning. Faith that rests in alignment is maturing. This does not mean questions disappear. It means questions no longer control you. Archangel Michael's presence continues to ensure that what is not assigned to you does not distract you. But discernment requires your cooperation. If you entertain what God has already asked you to release, confusion can return. Stay clean in your focus. This is a season of inner consolidation. God is consolidating lessons, experiences, and insights into wisdom. Wisdom is portable. You carry it wherever you go. That is why this phase feels quieter but deeper. Light is decreasing so depth can increase. You are being prepared to handle responsibility without losing peace. That is not common. Many can handle pressure but lose joy. Others preserve joy but avoid responsibility. God is shaping you to carry both. That balance is powerful. As you continue forward, remember this. Obedience is no longer something you are forcing. It is becoming your default. And when obedience becomes natural, authority becomes stable. What lies ahead will require the version of you that listens calmly, responds wisely, and remains aligned even when no one is watching. Heaven is confident in what it is forming. Stay grounded. Stay humble. Stay aligned. The next shift will not feel like a warning. It will feel like confirmation. Beloved child, now we arrive at a sacred turning point, one that many never reach because it requires patience, humility, and sustained obedience. This is the moment where heaven begins to trust you with foresight. Not prophecy for spectacle, but insight for stewardship. You are no longer only being protected from what could harm you. You are being shown what lies ahead so you can prepare without fear. What you are sensing lately is not anxiety about the future. It is awareness of transition. God often alerts the spirit before the mind can fully explain it. That is why you may feel a quiet anticipation, a sense that something is aligning behind the scenes. This is not excitement without grounding. This is readiness being formed. Archangel Michael's role now becomes more strategic than defensive. Strategy is required when advancement is near. Defense guards what you have. Strategy prepares you for what you are about to receive. Heaven does not promote abruptly. It signals, tests, confirms, and then releases. You are currently in the confirmation stage. This is why certain situations have been replaying in your thoughts, not with emotional charge, but with clarity. God is allowing you to review past lessons without pain so you can carry wisdom forward without baggage. When healing is complete, memory no longer wounds. It instructs. You are also being taught how to move without over-explaining. Silence is becoming comfortable for you. That is growth. When God elevates someone, He often reduces their need to be understood by everyone. Understanding from heaven becomes enough. Pay attention to the way decisions feel now. You are less conflicted, even when choices are difficult. That is alignment settling into instinct. Obedience is no longer something you wrestle with. It is something you recognize. This is spiritual muscle memory being formed. There is also an invitation here to release control. Not responsibility, but control. Control comes from fear and loss. Responsibility comes from trust in stewardship. God is shifting you from one to the other. When you release control, peace expands. When peace expands, discernment sharpens. Do not be surprised if you feel a deeper compassion for others without feeling responsible to fix them. That balance is maturity. You can care without carrying. Intercede without absorbing. Love without losing clarity. This protects your heart while keeping it open. Archangel Michael ensures that as your compassion grows, your boundaries remain firm. Compassion without boundaries leads to exhaustion. Boundaries without compassion lead to hardness. Heaven is teaching you the balance required for influence. You may also notice that certain prayers you used to repeat are changing. You are no longer asking God to rescue you from situations. You are asking Him to guide you through decisions. That shift matters. It means you trust His presence more than His intervention, and that trust invites partnership. This is also a season where obedience must remain private. Public obedience can invite unnecessary scrutiny. Private obedience builds quiet authority. What God is doing in you does not require validation yet. It requires cultivation. Be mindful of subtle pride disguised as spiritual confidence. Confidence stays dependent. Pride becomes self-reliant. The moment you feel you no longer need instruction is the moment instruction becomes necessary again. Stay yielded. Yielding does not weaken you. It protects you. You are being prepared to receive something that will require discernment to manage. Blessings can become burdens if they arrive before structure. God is building structure in you now. Emotional structure, spiritual structure, mental structure. This ensures that when increase comes, it does not overwhelm you. There is also a call here to remain grateful. Gratitude anchors you in the present while preparing you for the future. When gratitude fades, entitlement grows. Heaven resists entitlement. Gratitude keeps you aligned with grace. As this message settles, understand that what you have walked through was not just for survival. It was for qualification. You are being qualified for trust. And trust is the currency of heaven. Now receive this prophetic activation with reverence and faith. Type "I walk in divine trust" in the comments if this word confirms what God has been doing in you. Blessing code 2684 is now released over your discernment, your future decisions, and the territory God is entrusting to you. And as this moment seals, hear this invitation flowing directly from the heart of the message. What God is building in you is not meant to stop with you. This word is reaching others because obedience created a channel. I am inviting you now, not as a request, but as a calling to help keep this channel open. When you release support through Super Thanks, through membership, or through PayPal using the link in the description, you are sowing light into places still waiting for warning and wisdom. The Lord says, "Those who water will themselves be watered," and this word is alive and active right now. Your support is not a donation. It is a prophetic response. I declare that every seed released here returns us clarity, protection, and multiplied peace. Do not delay this act. Step into it with faith. Obey the nudge and release the seed now. My beloved one, now you are entering a season that feels unfamiliar, not because it is dangerous, but because it is new. Familiar struggle has been replaced with unfamiliar stability, and that transition can feel disorienting if you are not aware of what God is doing. This is the phase where heaven begins to stretch your capacity, not by pressure, but by trust. Trust feels lighter than pressure, yet it requires deeper responsibility. You may notice that situations which once triggered fear now only require discernment. That is growth. Fear screams urgency. Discernment speaks calmly. God hath been training your inner ear to recognize the difference. When fear loses its voice, manipulation loses its power. This is not accidental. This is the result of alignment sustained over time. Archangel Michael remains present, but his activity is now largely unseen. This does not mean less protection. It means stronger structure. When protection is properly established, it no longer needs constant reinforcement. It becomes part of the environment. What once required intervention now functions through order. There is something important happening in your decision-making process. You are beginning to sense consequences before choices fully form. This is foresight, not caution. Foresight allows you to adjust early instead of repair later. God is teaching you how to govern your life, not just survive it. This season requires honesty with yourself. Not harsh self-judgment, but truthful assessment. Ask yourself what strengthens you and what slowly drains you. Not everything draining is sinful, and not everything strengthening is dramatic. Wisdom lies in recognizing patterns, not labeling everything extreme. You are also learning when to disengage. Disengagement is not avoidance, it is discernment. Some battles are distractions dressed as assignments. Archangel Michael does not fight unnecessary battles, and neither should you. Authority is preserved when energy is invested wisely. There may be moments where you feel a subtle grief for the version of you that lived in constant urgency. That version knew how to survive, how to react, how to push through. But you are no longer called to live that way. Grief does not mean regression. It means transition. You are allowed to honor what got you here without returning to it. God is also teaching you how to receive without guilt, peace without anxiety, rest without fear of missing something, joy without suspicion. These are learned behaviors, not automatic ones. When you have lived in vigilance for too long, peace can feel unfamiliar. Stay with it. Let it teach you. This is where many people self-sabotage, not intentionally but subconsciously. They return to old stress patterns because they feel productive. But productivity is not the same as fruitfulness. God is shifting you from effort-based living to alignment-based living. Effort exhausts. Alignment sustains. Pay attention to your inner dialogue. You are being invited to speak to yourself with clarity instead of criticism. God does not motivate through shame. He guides through truth. If your thoughts sound harsh and urgent, pause. That voice is not leading you forward. Archangel Michael's assignment includes guarding your thought life at this stage. Thoughts are seeds. What you plant determines what grows. You are being trained to recognize thoughts that come from alignment versus thoughts that come from habit. Habitual thinking often resists change even when change is good. There is also an invitation here to deepen your listening, not just to God but to timing. Timing reveals when to act and when to wait. Acting too early can be as disruptive as acting too late. Wisdom discerns the difference. You may feel a sense of anticipation without a clear object. That is because what is coming is still forming. God often prepares the vessel before revealing the content. If He showed you everything now, you might rush or overinterpret. Trust the pacing. Trust the process. Do not compare your journey to others. Comparison distorts perspective. Some are still in warning phases. Some are in correction. Some are in maintenance. You are where you are because this is what you are ready to steward. Stewardship requires focus, not comparison. There is also a refinement happening in how you pray. Your prayers are becoming more precise. Less emotional noise. More intentional alignment. This is not loss of passion. It is increase of clarity. God values clarity because clarity produces cooperation. Be mindful of subtle distractions that try to pull you back into unnecessary urgency. News, conversations, imagined scenarios. These can fragment focus. Focus protects peace. Peace preserves discernment. You are learning to trust God without needing to see immediate confirmation. That trust is evidence of maturity. Immature faith demands constant signs. Mature faith rests in alignment even when outcomes are still forming. As you move forward, remember this. You are not being rushed, but you are being readied. Heaven is not behind schedule. Neither are you. What matters now is continued consistency. Stay attentive. Stay honest. Stay aligned. This season is not loud because it is foundational. And foundations determine how much weight a structure can carry. What comes next will require the steadiness you are developing now. And you are developing it well. My beloved child, now we step into a moment that is both delicate and decisive. This is where many people misunderstand what God is doing because it does not feel urgent on the surface, yet it carries long-term consequence. You are entering a season where maintenance turns into mastery. Not mastery over others, but mastery over your responses, your choices, and your inner world. And that kind of mastery is rare. You may notice that situations arise now that look familiar on the outside, but feel different on the inside. The same type of pressure, the same kind of conversation, the same emotional trigger. Yet your reaction is calmer, slower, more measured. This is not coincidence. This is evidence that obedience has reshaped your instincts. You are no longer reacting from memory. You are responding from alignment. Archangel Michael continues to stand watch, but his role here is deeply instructional. He is not only guarding you, he is training you to recognize when no intervention is needed. One of the highest forms of protection is discernment that prevents conflict before it begins. When you no longer engage what once pulled you in, battles dissolve without confrontation. This is where restraint becomes power. Saying nothing when silence preserves peace. Walking away when ego wants explanation. Pausing when emotion wants expression. These are not weaknesses. These are signs of authority under control. Heaven trusts those who can hold power without needing to prove it. You are also learning how to live without constant spiritual adrenaline. For a long time, intensity may have felt like confirmation that God was near. But God is just as present in stillness as He is in urgency. In fact, His deepest work often happens in calm seasons, when fear is not driving attention. Be aware of this temptation, to reintroduce stress because it feels familiar. Familiar does not mean faithful. Stress does not equal purpose. God is teaching you that peace can be productive and rest can be strategic. When you operate from peace, your decisions carry clarity instead of chaos. There will be moments where you feel almost too calm, and that may make you question whether you are still alert. Do not confuse calm with compromise. Calm is the result of alignment. Compromise always produces tension. Learn to trust peace as a signal, not a threat. This season also requires you to guard against subtle pride that says, "I've learned this already." Every level of maturity requires renewed humility. What you have learned must be applied again and again in new forms. Obedience does not graduate you out of listening, it deepens your listening. You are being shown how to steward what you have gained. Wisdom without stewardship fades. Stewardship keeps wisdom active. This includes how you manage time, attention, relationships, and spiritual focus. Small neglects compound over time. Small disciplines compound even faster. Archangel Michael's presence ensures that when you choose restraint, heaven reinforces it. When you choose peace, protection stabilizes. When you choose obedience, authority strengthens. This is a partnership now, not a rescue operation. As you continue listening, pause here for a moment, because what unfolds next ties everything together in a way many people miss. You will want to stay with this, because clarity is about to deepen, and understanding this shift will change how you move forward. And before we go further, hear this clearly and without hesitation. If this message hath been guiding you, grounding you, and sharpening your discernment, then engage with it intentionally. Like this video to declare agreement. Comment to anchor this word in your life. Share it with someone who may be unaware that they are standing at a similar threshold. Subscribe to this channel so you remain connected to what God continues to release here. If this place has become a source of spiritual clarity for you, join the membership and stand with this mission. Your engagement is not passive, it is participatory. What you support, you help sustain. What you sustain, you help multiply. This is not about visibility. This is about obedience spreading through alignment. And alignment always attracts protection. You are not drifting. You are being established. You are not slowing down. You are being strengthened. What God is building in you now is stable enough to carry what is coming next. Remain attentive. Remain grounded. Remain aligned. Because what is about to unfold will require the calm authority you are developing now, and you will be grateful you stayed steady through this season. Beloved one, now you are standing at a point where many cannot remain, not because it is difficult, but because it requires integrity of heart. This is the stage where alignment is no longer something you think about. It is something you live from. And living from alignment exposes motives, intentions, and desires in a way that nothing else can. God is not examining your actions now as much as He is weighing your intentions. You may notice that your tolerance for misalignment has decreased. Things that once felt manageable now feel heavy. Conversations that once seemed harmless now feel draining. This is not because you are becoming rigid. It is because your spirit has become more refined. Refinement does not make you fragile. It makes you precise. Archangel Michael remains near, but his presence now serves as confirmation rather than correction. When you sense a check in your spirit, that is often enough. You do not need a crisis to redirect you anymore. Awareness itself has become your safeguard. This is what maturity looks like in the spirit. There is a deeper invitation unfolding here, to live transparently before God. Not publicly transparent, but inwardly honest. God is not asking you to confess sins you do not have. He is asking you to examine motives you have ignored. Why you want what you want? Why you avoid what you avoid? Why certain desires resurface when pressure lifts? These questions are not accusations. They are invitations to freedom. You are being prepared to carry influence without corruption. Influence tests integrity faster than adversity ever did. When life was hard, dependence was obvious. When life becomes stable, independence can quietly creep in. God is guarding you from that by deepening your awareness of Him, not just your need for Him. This is also a season where obedience must be motivated by love, not fear. Fear-based obedience exhausts. Love-based obedience sustains. If you find yourself doing the right things, but feeling inwardly strained, pause and ask God to realign your motive. He is more interested in your heart posture than your performance. You may feel moments of restlessness that have no clear source. That restlessness is not dissatisfaction. It is readiness. Readiness for refinement at a deeper level. God often stirs restlessness not to unsettle you, but to move you inward, where growth now needs to happen. Archangel Michael's role here includes guarding you from subtle compromise. Compromise does not always look like obvious wrongdoing. Sometimes it looks like convenience over conviction. Silence when clarity is needed. Agreement for the sake of peace rather than truth. These are the moments where integrity is formed or fractured. You are learning to choose clarity even when it costs comfort. A choice is shaping your future authority. Authority that lasts is built on truth consistently chosen, not occasionally defended. This is why heaven has been patient with your growth. God is building something that will not collapse under pressure. There may be times now when obedience feels lonely. Not because you are alone, but because you are walking a path few choose. Do not interpret solitude as abandonment. Some levels of clarity require space. God often separates to concentrate, not to isolate. You are also being taught discernment in speech. When to speak, when to remain silent, when to clarify, when to trust God to defend truth without your intervention. Speech aligned with wisdom preserves peace. Speech driven by emotion creates unnecessary exposure. Pay attention to your inner peace. Peace is no longer just a feeling. It is a signal. When peace withdraws, examine alignment before assuming opposition. Often, peace is the first indicator that something needs adjustment. Listen to it. This is a refining season for your values. What you prioritize. What you protect. What you pursue. God is aligning your values with your calling so that when opportunity arrives, you do not have to renegotiate your convictions. They will already be settled. Archangel Michael ensures that as your convictions strengthen, external pressure does not overwhelm you. But he does not remove the need for choice. Choice remains yours. Heaven honors choice even when it carries cost. You may find that your prayers are becoming quieter but deeper. Fewer words, more trust, less urgency, more surrender. This is not loss of passion. It is intimacy maturing. God does not measure prayer by length, but by alignment. As this phase continues, understand this. You are not being perfected. You are being stabilized. Perfection is not the goal. Faithfulness is. Stability allows faithfulness to endure when emotions fluctuate. You are closer now to the version of yourself God has always seen. Not because you have done everything right, but because you have stayed responsive. Responsiveness is the soil where transformation grows. Remain attentive. Remain honest. Remain aligned. The next shift will not ask you to change direction. It will ask you to step forward with confidence. carrying everything you have learned. And you will be ready, because integrity has been formed quietly, deeply, and faithfully within you. My beloved child, this is the final sealing of what heaven began when this warning first reached you. What started as urgency has now matured into authority. You are no longer responding to danger. You are walking in discernment. This is the difference between surviving spiritually and governing spiritually. And heaven does not bring someone this far without intention. Look back for a moment, not with regret, but with understanding. The hesitation that once lifted your shield was not meant to shame you. It was meant to teach you how valuable alignment truly is. You have now learned something that many never learn until after loss, that obedience is not about rules but about protection, positioning, and trust. You are not the same person who began this journey. Your inner world is steadier. Your reactions are slower and wiser. Your discernment is sharper without being harsh. This is the evidence of transformation that cannot be faked. And because it is real, it will last. Archangel Michael's assignment around you now reaches completion in its current form. Not because protection is ending, but because responsibility has increased. When heaven sees that someone can maintain alignment without constant warning, it entrusts them with greater territory. Protection shifts into partnership. Covering shifts into confidence. This does not mean you will never face resistance again. It means resistance will no longer confuse you. You will recognize it without fear. You will respond without panic. And you will move forward without hesitation. That is authority. There will be moments ahead where others look to you for clarity, even if they do not say it out loud. Your calm will speak. Your restraint will instruct. Your consistency will reassure. This is influence born from obedience and not ambition. Remember this always. God did not correct you to slow you down. He corrected you to strengthen you. He did not lift the shield to expose you to harm, but to expose what needed adjustment. And because you responded, heaven responded fully. From this point forward, obedience will feel less like effort and more like instinct. That does not mean you stop listening. It means listening has become part of who you are. When alignment becomes identity, protection becomes environment. You are also stepping into a season where gratitude must remain active. Gratitude keeps the heart soft while authority grows. Authority without gratitude hardens. Gratitude without obedience weakens. You have learned the balance, and that balance will preserve you. Do not rush what comes next. Expansion happens naturally when foundations are secure. God does not need you to strive for the next level. He needs you to stay faithful at this one. Faithfulness attracts increase without force. As this message closes, understand that this was never just a warning for one night. It was an initiation into awareness. And awareness, once received, cannot be undone. You now see differently. You choose differently. You move differently. Now receive this final prophetic sealing with faith and clarity. Type "I walk under divine covering" in the comments if you receive this word fully. Blessing code 7319 is now activated over your life, your home, your decisions, and everything God has entrusted to you. This word did not end with you because obedience never ends with one person. God is using this channel to warn, protect, and awaken souls who may not even realize what they are facing. And I am speaking directly to those whose spirits feel stirred right now. I hear the Lord say, "Those who help carry my light will never walk in darkness." When you support this mission through Super Thanks, through membership, or through PayPal using the link in the description, you are not giving to a channel. You are sowing into protection for others. This is not charity. This is covenant action. I declare that every seed released here returns to you pressed down, multiplied in peace, and surrounded by divine covering. Do not hesitate. Do not reason it away. Obey the nudge. Support the work. Join the mission. Release the seed now, and let heaven respond to your obedience as surely as it always has.